Morning, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good morning. We'll get started here. Our first item on our agenda is a proclamation. It's one of our favorite ones, and this is going to proclaim National Women's Veterans Day. This day is observed each year on June 12th. National Women's Veterans Day commemorates the anniversary of the signing of the Women's Armed Services Integration Act of 1948, a landmark law that granted women the right to serve as permanent, regular members of the United States Armed Forces. Today we honor the courage, dedication, and sacrifice of the millions of women who have served our nation in times of war and peace. Their contributions have strengthened our military, protected our freedoms, and paved the way for future generations of women in uniform. As we gather to celebrate National Women's Veterans Day, we also recognize the unique challenges that women veterans have faced throughout the history and continue to face today. Their stories of service, resilience, leadership, and patriotism deserve to be remembered, shared, and celebrated. So please join me in honoring these remarkable women today who have answered the call to serve our country and whose legacy continues to inspire us all. With that, we're going to have Commissioner Boyce read our proclamation.
So this is a proclamation for Women Veterans Day, which is June 12th this year. Whereas women have proudly served our nation throughout history, contributing to the defense of freedom and the preservation of liberty since the founding of the United States. And whereas on June 12, 1948, President Harry S. Truman signed the Women's Armed Services Integration Act into law, granting women the right to serve as permanent regular members of the United States Armed Forces. June 12th is recognized as Women Veterans Day to commemorate this historic milestone and to honor the generations of women who have answered the call to military service. And whereas women have served with distinction in every major military conflict, from the American Revolution to the present-day operations around the world, including the inception of the Army Nurse Corps in 1901, and they have demonstrated courage, resilience, leadership, and unwavering dedication to our nation. And whereas in 2019, Douglas County was honored to be the first county in Oregon to celebrate the newly established Oregon holiday recognizing women veterans. The first Oregon Women Veterans Day took place on June 12, 2019. And whereas the sacrifices made by women veterans, their families, caregivers, and survivors deserve our deepest gratitude and recognition. And whereas during World War I, about 35,000 women officially served as nurses and support staff. In World War II, 140,000 women served in the U.S. Army and the Women's Army Corps, performing critical jobs such as military intelligence, cryptography, and parachute rigging. At present, 17.7% of the nation's military forces are women. And whereas women represent the fastest growing segment of the veteran population, with more than 2.1 million women veterans residing throughout the United States, including thousands in Oregon and more than 1,600 women veterans who proudly call Douglas County home and who continue to make significant contributions to their communities as leaders, professionals, public servants, volunteers, and business owners. And whereas we proudly support the Oregon chapter, the Roseburg chapter of the American Women Veterans Association, established in 1985 by a group of women veterans employed at the Roseburg VA Hospital. This local chapter welcomes all women veterans who have received an honorable discharge. And whereas we also want to thank and recognize the many local veteran organizations that support, assist, and advocate for our women veterans and their families. And now, therefore, we, the Douglas County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim June 12, 2026 as Women Veterans Day in Douglas County, and encourage all residents to join in honoring the service, sacrifice, achievements, and lasting legacy of America's women veterans.
Awesome. At this time, we're going to present some certificates. I have some certificates here for some groups that provide support to women veterans. So, Tamara, what do you think?
All right, so let's see here. Do I have anybody from the Douglas County Veteran Service Office here today? I know she's at the conference. Douglas County Veterans Advisory Board. If you were on our advisory board, we would invite you to come up. Yep, there's a couple there. Yeah, you're on the advisory board, yeah. That's
How are you? Good to see you. Mr. Little?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hi there.
Thank you.
Be 1, 2, 3.
All right. Do we have any representatives from the Douglas County Veterans Forum? Roseburg VA Hospital. Yep.
Hello.
Good. All right.
1, 2, 3.
It's a good day. All right, Cow Creek Tribal Veterans Service Office. American Women Veterans Association, that's it.
Sit down.
Alrighty, Wings of Love. Daughters of the American Revolution. Veterans of Foreign Wars, VFW Post 2468, 9745 and auxiliaries. American Legion Post 16123 and auxiliaries. Vietnam Veterans of America.
Associates. Associates.
Associates and associates.
Associates there, yeah.
Yes, yes.
One, two,
Ready. Umpqua Community College Veterans Group. The Vet Cafe. Oh, she's coming up for Source on Serenity too.
Maybe two.
Yes.
Yes.
Who doesn't have one?
Just going back there.
Can we get everyone to take a shift this way? Just a little bit more, just a little bit more. Alright, perfect. 3, 1, 2, 3.
Alrighty. Now I need all the people that were up here previously. We want to take a picture
Good
with them.
stay, so everyone.
Yep,
Okay, let me
Group
grab
photo.
mine.
and all women veterans.
Just stay here.
Just stay here, please.
Perfect, that's right.
We can squeeze in a little more. Oh, goodness.
Everybody switch Jim and Donnell. Jim's just a little taller. Thanks, Steve.
Alrighty. On 3, 1, 2, 3.
Alright, thank you.
So Tamara, now we get the opportunity to have some guest speakers. You have, I know you have some people in mind that have asked to say a few words. Go ahead and call those folks up.
Alrighty. So Cecilia, who'd love
That's
to
gonna
hear
mention
from
the
you?
more.
Of course I will.
Just a moment. I don't have my own words today. I don't have a lot of my own words today. It's just one of those days. So I have some words by other famous women veterans. And you can take it the way you want to, or just maybe ponder one or two of them. I often quote Dr. Linus Pauling, who talks about how it's not a matter of having a good idea, it's a matter of generating a lot of ideas and then picking the best one. If you have homogeneous teams, you end up with very similar solutions. This was spoken by Admiral Michelle Howard. If you compromise your integrity and principles on minor issues, it gets easier to make bad choices on the big issues. This was spoken by General Anne Dunwoody. There's no difference in gender here in the military police corps. We're all doing each other's jobs, the same jobs, there's no difference. Sergeant Lee Ann Hester, U.S. Army military police soldier. Every single person around you brings something to the fight that you don't. Each of them is critical important to mission success. Lieutenant General Lori Robinson. If I don't do it, who will? At some point, somebody has to step up to pave the way for everyone to move forward. Captain Vernice Armour, U.S. Marine Corps combat pilot. There's no quitting. I can't have quit in me. There was never an option to stop and quit. Major Lisa Jaster, U.S. Army Reserve engineer officer and Ranger School graduate. I can only hope that a new generation of people are inspired by seeing a woman as the captain of our ship of state, recognizing that for them too, there's no limit to what they can accomplish. Commander Billy J. Farrell, U.S. Navy, commanding officer of the USS Constitution. And finally, my decision to register women confirms what is already obvious throughout our society, that women are now providing all types of skills in every profession. The military should be no exception. Former President Jimmy Carter. That's just a few words you might ponder throughout the day as we recognize women veterans. Thank you.
Cecilia, can you talk about your own service? Please, everybody who comes up, do the same.
Well, I was in the Oregon Army National Guard. I applied because they actually had the best college plan. They paid for my college and they encouraged me and they gave me a lot of momentum. Then the war happened and things kind of changed, priorities changed. I didn't go back to college, but my life changed and I had other opportunities. I took advantage of those. I was a telecommunications specialist in a transportation detachment, and I spent 9 months in Saudi Arabia at the Dhahran Air Base, which was the largest air base in the region. And we pretty much brought in 90% of all the air cargo and passengers for Operation Desert Storm. So we worked a lot. And so we were also, in the, people say women, aren't in a combat role, but we were being bombed and we were out there in the heat and we were, just doing our jobs, trying to help support the effort. So, and there was a little fact, 40,000 women in Operation Desert Storm, and they were basically the first ones that were considered combat veteran women in our country. So that's something to think about, though you don't run into that many from that era because they're all spread out across the United States. So it's a little fact, so thank you.
Thank you for sharing. and
Your
thank you.
service too.
What do you have next on the list there?
Tammy, we'd love to hear from you.
Well, I didn't prepare anything. Was in the Air Force in the same time Cecilia was. I wasn't in a combat role. I was administrative, and I served in Germany under a lot of officers at that time on a base in Simbach Air Base. Great experience, very young, 19-year-old in a different country. So that was a good way to grow up quickly. I attribute the military as my core values and foundation and leadership. I attribute it to getting my role that I'm currently at the Cancer Center as the executive director. I had a great experience in the military. I met a lot of amazing women. Cecilia went in American Women Veterans Association. There are a lot of hardship over the years and recognition for women in the military, and even my best friend was in the military. She went in with me as well, and she Douglas County is an amazing county that really recognizes the veterans in our community, and she doesn't experience that living in Washington. And I try to remind her, you are a veteran. You need to be recognized for what you did. So
You should have her move here.
yes, yes, I would love to have her live here, but
And Tammy chairs our Veterans Advisory.
I am on the advisory committee, and our advisory committee has got an amazing board that does a lot for our veterans in our community. I know Jim Little, he does amazing work, as well as Donetta on our advisory committee. And the VSO office does an amazing work in our community. In our report, in our meeting yesterday, they reported $1.6 million in retro pay for Douglas County. So our VSO office is amazing. They process more claims for our veterans than any other county. And they do amazing work. So Mary Newman and her team needs to be recognized for our veterans as well. So they do a
They're
great
doing
job.
training this week.
Yes, they are training. So they've had a lot of training. So that's it.
Thank you, Ken.
I'm gonna go off my list here, so Sharon Johnson.
My name is Sharon. I was born here in Douglas County. Graduated '86. Decided to go into the military following my brother's examples. My oldest brother was in the Navy. He was a F-14 pilot. And my second oldest brother was in the Army. He worked with helicopters. So that was my choice. So in 1985, I joined the delayed entry program. And 2.5 weeks after graduation, I was off to basic training. I spent 30 years in Southern California because that's where I was planted. Only did 5 years of duty, but that's where I stayed. And then after receiving my master's in acupuncture oriental medicine, I decided to come back to where my roots are, and that's right here in Roseburg. So, yeah. That's about it. I mean, there's more, but that's the gist.
Thank you, Sharon.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Donetta, would you like to speak?
While Donna is standing up, we might as well have her come up.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah.
Good morning, I'm Donetta Loomis. I'm an Army veteran of 24 years. I've served in 3 different combat operations to include Desert Storm. And I actually was also human resources personnel. So to just get rid of that myth that personnel does not go to war, which I've actually heard that a lot and been told when I tell people I'm in the military, well, you were never in harm's way and bless your soul. Well, that's not necessarily true. But those experiences have helped me to grow and to see life in a different way. I am originally from Pennsylvania, but I married a wonderful man who brought me here to Roseburg. So this is where I am, and this is my home, and I am blessed to be here and blessed to be able to be in a community that recognizes veterans.
One more addition to that. When I met my bride, we were both about 11 years in service, and she was already a combat veteran. So I was jealous. She was already experienced in combat. But shortly after we were married, we were going through deployments to Iraq. So she got first to go on her first tour to Iraq, her second tour to Iraq. And during that second tour of Iraq, she was in the same town, Tikrit, where while she was there, they captured Saddam Hussein in that town. Then I went over to Iraq and she went home, and so we were apart for about 2 years. We got back after those 2 deployments, and she was sent back for a 3rd deployment. On her 7th day, on her 3rd deployment to Iraq, the vehicle she was parked next to was blown up by a rocket. And she was thankfully not injured, and the vehicle she was in jumped a couple of feet in the air and moved. But that's just kind of a depiction of what women veterans are going through today. Just wanted to add that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How about Michaela from the VA? Sorry.
Hi, my name is Michaela Spence-Quignone, and I've been with the VA for 13 years. I'm not a veteran, so I don't feel like I should be speaking, but I do work for women veterans, and they are near and dear to my heart. I've been in Roseburg for a few of those years, and just really value all of you so much, and what more can I say? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, anybody else on behalf of this would like to talk? Say a few words? We certainly appreciate everybody coming today, and this kind of concludes our program on Proclamation Day, and you're welcome to stay for our meeting, or you can take this time. We'll give you a couple minutes if you want to leave and get on with your lives. But thank you for coming, and we certainly appreciate you all.
Next time.
We should go, yeah.
It's pretty good.
Oh, sorry. I thought this was
You got a big agenda, you're doing good. You got a long agenda, you're doing good.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Our next item on our agenda is our consent agenda, and while it looks really long, they're all pretty much routine extensions of contracts and some reappointments on some boards, and I would move to approve our consent agenda.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any questions or comments on that? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. Commissioner Boyce?
Aye.
Mr. Freeman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion passes. The next item on the agenda is citizens' questions and comments on agenda items. I will note that 9 and 10 are public hearings, and then if you're here for those and want to talk on those, the time to do that will be when we're open up that public hearing. So other than 9 and 10, is there anybody here that'd like to talk about anything on our agenda? But online,
No comments online.
okay. Well, seeing none, we're gonna move on to, number 4, which is, information and technology and a grant agreement, reinstatement and amendment. This is a reinstatement and the first amendment to our, the county's radio and infrastructure improvement project grant, 4562-51. It's funded through the 2021 Hazardous Mitigation Grant Program, and it's to improve the infrastructure of our emergency communication radio system. And this amendment is to kind of bridge the ending of the first performance period to include the second performance period and the second part of the grant. And so we need to do this amendment, and I would move to approve that amendment. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on that? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. Commissioner Boyce? Aye. Commissioner Freeman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye and the motion passes. Item number 5 is a juvenile grant, and I see that we have Corey Tate.
Morning, Commissioners. Corey Tate, Lipstick Coordinator, housed in the Juvenile Department. Previously, you approved the Impacts Grant funded by the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission. So before you is an Impacts Grant Agreement number 3008 with subrecipient Adapt Integrated Healthcare for the period of 7/1/25 to 8/31/27 in the amount of $856,877.82, which is also funded through the CDC.
Move to approve the grant agreement.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Questions, comments?
Mr. Chair, if I may. For this one and the next one, I want to make this clear. I've had people ask me about this. So I serve on the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission. So when when I'm doing that work with the Criminal Justice Commission, if we vote to fund programs that Douglas County receives funding, I always abstain. When we take those grant dollars here, I always abstain. But this isn't either of those. This is us picking a person to spend the money with, so I'm fine to vote on this. It's not a conflict, so truthfully, the first two aren't conflicts either, but just out of an abundance of caution, we do that. But this is us contracting to spend these dollars.
Anything else? Make sure, did I have a motion and a second on that one? Okay, I'll call for the question. Commissioner Boyce?
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye and motion passes. Thank you. Corey, I think you're up again.
Yes, thank you. Again, Corey Tate, Lipstick Coordinator, House and Juvenile Department. So before you is another Impacts Grant Agreement, number 3009, with subrecipient Chadwick Clubhouse for the period of 7/1/25 to 8/31/27 in the amount of $64,658.
I will move to approve the grant agreement.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Questions or comments? And I'll call for the question. Commissioner Boyce?
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye and motion passes. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you for your support. Thank you.
Item number 7 is a Parks Department contract. I see that Commissioner Boyce is going to handle this one.
So this is contract number 30003042 between Douglas County and JRT Construction. It's in the amount of $648,821. This project is related to the rehab of the east and west boat ramp parking lots at Cooper Creek Reservoir, which that project's gonna start up before too long and be going most part of the summer. It's offset by a sub-award grant from the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife and the Oregon State Marine Board. I'll move to approve the contract.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for question. Commissioner Boyce?
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye and motion passes. Item number 8 is also a Parks Department item.
So this is an amendment to the boating facility IGA grant or agreement between Douglas County and State Marine Board. This is for a cost increase to the existing grant for $400,000. Essentially what happened here is the State Marine Board took a look at the engineering, decided they wanted to do more work to make sure that the grade of the parking lot was accurate before they repaved it, which was gonna cost considerably more. And they committed to pay for 2/3 of that cost increase. So that's what this grant amendment is for. I move to approve the amendment.
And I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Let's say that I gratefully looked at that. Maybe that'll keep that parking lot in a good spot for a long time. So,
Right.
call for the question, Commissioner Boyce?
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion passes. Item number 9 is going to be a public hearing, and I'll invite up Joshua Shackley. Talk about it in a moment and then see if we have any questions here. Go ahead. Okay, so before I open the public hearing, do you want to tell us what we're doing? No, I think you have some. All right, so we're going to, I'm going to be opening a public hearing on the amendments to the Douglas County Land Use and Development Ordinance, the proposed Ludo amendments. We're going to create an opportunity for owners of property zoned rural residential to construct structures and accessories to single-family dwellings in conjunction with permitted farm uses, with the allowable size of the structure corresponding to the acreage of the property. The matter is on remand from the Oregon State Land Use Board of Appeals. So I'm going to request that disclosure from any. Do any of the three of you have any, or two of you have any kind of conflict of interest or ex parte contact?
None for me.
I do not.
I don't either. So this time I'd like to have staff give a report.
Morning, Commissioners. Joshua Shackley, Douglas County Planning. Before you this morning is a public hearing and ordinance adopting amendments to Douglas County Land Use and Development Ordinance, or LUDO, on remand from the Land Use Board of Appeals of the State of Oregon, or LUBA. The proposed amendments were originally adopted as part of the spring 2024 amendments that were subsequently appealed to LUBA. LUBA remanded the amendments back to Douglas County based on a finding of inadequate notice that was provided to the original evidentiary hearing. The proposed LUDO amendments provide an opportunity for owners of property zoned rural residential to construct structures accessory to single-family dwellings in conjunction with a permitted farm use, with allowable size of the structure corresponding to the acreage of the property, up to 10,000 square feet, as an allowed use in all rural residential zones. Accessory structures larger than 10,000 square feet would be subject to a conditional use review in these zones. The amendments provide property owners with additional flexibility on larger tracts of rural residential land where the land is managed for farm use. So they are no longer subject to the same size limitations as other accessory structures, particularly when compared to a similarly sized resource zoned property. Planning Department staff finds that the proposed amendments are not in conflict with the comprehensive plan or statewide planning goals. To date, we have received comment from attorney Zach Midkey representing Warnock and Barbara McElwain, contending the county made procedural errors in noticing his clients. The county has reviewed these comments and found them to be without merit. Legal notice in accordance with all applicable state and local requirements have been provided to these legislative amendments. Planning staff recommends that the Board of Commissioners adopt the amendments to the LUDO. Happy to answer any questions that the board might have. Otherwise, you can recommend that you open the public hearing and then deliberate to a decision.
Any questions from staff before we open the public hearing? Okay, so I'm going to open a public hearing at this time, and I'm going to invite public testimony. We're going to do this kind of in an order. We're going to accept testimony first from those in opposition to the proposal. Then we'll accept testimony from those neutral to the proposal. And then finally, we'll accept testimony from those in favor of the proposal. So this time, I'm going to open a public hearing and invite testimony for those in opposition to the proposal. They like this. Please state your name and for the record, please.
Name is Linda Herbert, Herbert.
And would you please, you have a statement to make in opposition of the proposal?
I'm a neighbor also, along with McElwain's. I'm at 1579 Whistler's Lane, which is one of the roads that goes down to Whistler's Park. My neighbor next to me wants to build what he started out as a riding arena, which now is developed into a complete enclosed riding arena with a parking area. With a parking area, that's asking for people to come from all over. It was not just for him or their family, it's for people to come in and ride their horses in a huge 10,000 square foot building. This is not in compliance with the rest of our farm use ranch land. It will now make it basically residential for the rest, for all of people that have land in Douglas County. Not just our little section. But, so, you're gonna, then I understand that for him to board horses in there and that, there's going to be a charge. So now we're gonna be a business community. Everyone in that area has 5 acres, 6 acres, 7 acres, 10 acres, 20 acres. It's not a residential area that has businesses. It's 13-mile marker. People that come and go to the park, they go down Whistler's Park Road, sometimes they come back just at the edge of Glide. This is not for businesses and that, and having people on a two-lane road, driving constantly, and if you take away the grass and the greenery and the trees on the lands, then you're just gonna have a dust bowl. And I'm gonna be next to a dust bowl. And I object to it. I think it's wrong. I think he has gone through steps to get around asking any neighbors or anything about it. Everyone that I've talked to, they don't want it, but I disagree with it. I have a pond. I have family, we hunt and fish on the pond. The geese come in. I've been doing it for years. It's permitted, it's allowed. And by putting a structure there, that'll go away. And the geese and the fowl won't come back. It's an obstruction to their flight pattern. Anybody that knows anything about the flights of birds and that follows the river, we're right off the river, and it's gonna displace them. They land and rest on the pond, and that'll go away. So we're changing our environment. We're not in a city, we're out in the county. And I'd like to keep it that way. The value of my home will decrease, because nobody's gonna buy it next to a business and a huge structure. Thank you for your time.
Would you else like to testify in opposition?
Good morning. My name is Barbara McElwain. That letter is from me and my husband, from our attorney. We've been fighting this for 4 years. And like Linda said, I think it's unfair that you're taking residential zones and making them into farm use at your choice. You know, you gotta go get a permit for it, you gotta pay for it, and you get to pick and choose who gets to build, who doesn't. And I don't think that's right. And like Linda said, we're gonna have a problem with traffic. And with the dust. As it is, they don't take care of their property in the first place. And, you know, he just runs animals on it at this point. Originally, he was running 13 in an area where he was only supposed to run 6. The only reason why he got rid of that was because he was fighting to get the barn and the riding arena so he could make it a business. And it's like I said, for 4 years we've been fighting this. And here we are again today, fighting it again. But I think for just the plain old people in the residential zone, why aren't they here? Why didn't you guys tell them about it? I got a letter from you, but nobody else has. And I think that's wrong also. I don't think you've done your due diligence. We've tried to do ours, and we're back here fighting again. And it's very, very, very sad that you turn on the people who live here and then live in the areas. A lot of these people don't know about it, that you've done this all over Douglas County. I think that if you had done a proper mailing or whatever, I think you would have had a lot more people here. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak in opposition? Yeah, I will.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. My name is Warnock McElwain. Barbara McElwain's my wife. We live at 1863 Whistler's Lane, adjacent to the property that wants to build, a barn, horse barn, and a riding arena. We were first approached by our neighbor, which originally when they first moved in, we were actually very friendly with. We have water rights. We put in a water pump at the river together, removed it at the end of the watering season. And after a year of being there, he proposed to us as a neighbor consent form to build a horse barn, and that's all he stated. But the horse barn in his property, he has 6 acres, is going to be 9,280 square feet. And I looked at that and I just couldn't wrap my head around the fact that he had 3 horses and he was going to build a horse barn that was 9,280 square feet. Couldn't imagine a horse barn being that big. Normal horse barns for that size property is around 2,000 square feet. There's one directly across the street of where Linda Herbert's residence is. And that was established back in the 80s, and it's a little over 2,000 square feet. We decided not to sign the form, and so then it proceeded to a conditional use permit. And at that point, went to the planning department. We appealed for the planning commission at the first hearing on this issue. There was one planning commissioner, I honestly don't remember his name. There were 4 commissioners at that hearing. I think they were allowed up to 7, if I'm not mistaken. There was one, and he was from Sutherland, and he sat where Mr. Boyce sits on that commission board. And he voted against, the approval of that conditional use permit. And the reasoning that he stated that was that in his mind, on 6 acres, which we're next door, and the property next door to them is Linda Herbert's place, and you're going to put nearly a 10,000 square foot building in a very conducive, okay, rural residential area, and it's gonna impact him. And he honestly stated he could not wrap his head around the fact that he's gonna put a building that large in so close proximity to our homes, our residential homes. That's why we bought there, because we want rural residential. My wife and I grew up in Los Angeles area. We're used to having homes so close that you can hear them brush their teeth. And we didn't want to do that. That's why when we retired, we moved from Southern California and we came here. We own a little bit of property in Washington State. We go up there during the summer. And when we were coming back from there over the years through working in LA area, I worked for City Corona, my wife worked for City of Riverside. We checked out a number of different residential areas, from Tillamook down to Brookings, along the coast, inland. I can't even tell you how many different places we looked at. And we finally settled here in Roseburg. It's a banana belt during the winter. The area is conducive. I love the town, but we get to drive out of town 13 miles and we're in a rural residential area. And now you people here have the choice of allowing farm use to enter into that fact. And by doing that, you change the whole complexity of that area, the whole complexity. We enjoy that area. I think every neighbor that we have enjoys that area. Changing it to a commercial use, if I'm not mistaken, if you allow farm use, it can become commercial. Is that correct? Is that correct? I'm asking you.
We'll ask, we'll get that answered.
Okay, and if you allow that to come into a rural residential area where people have been living for eons of time, that's why they chose that area. Now, if I wanted a business area, I'd be in town, but I'm not. I'm just saying to you that it's, you know, you people have the ability to say yes or no. But in my opinion, I would say no. If they want a rural residential area, they want to build a horse ranch, you know, that's what they want to do. They want a horse barn, riding arena. Go find a place that's not going to impact your neighbors. That's what this is all about. You're going to impact your neighbors. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else like to speak in opposition? Do you have any online?
Nobody online wishing to comment.
All right. Gonna move to anybody that would like to, that is neutral to the proposal, that would like to speak. Okay. None there online either?
None online.
Accept testimony now from those in favor of the proposal. Nothing there online either?
Nothing.
Okay, I'm gonna close public hearing. We'll get staff back up to answer some questions. Commissioner Freeman, go first. Do you have any?
I'm happy to ask the question that the gentleman just asked around the farm use, business use change.
I was just gonna read quickly from our definition of farm use, which is, a farm use is allowed in all of 3 of our rural residential
So
zones.
let's clarify that.
Yeah.
We're not changing that today. You're reading what's already allowed.
Allowed, right. So
This is
someone,
current.
we're talking
Currently
about
allowed.
what's under consideration is a structure in conjunction with farm use. The farm use itself is allowed today, so someone could do these activities on the property today. They just couldn't have a building the size.
Yes, please read.
So farm use also includes the current employment of land for the primary purpose of obtaining a profit and money by stabling and training equines, including but not limited to providing riding lessons, training clinics, and schooling shows. So I don't know if you want me to speak directly to their situation. This
Well,
is,
I just, it,
Yeah, we're not changing the zone.
Under current rural residential zone, that is allowed today, is what you're saying, that's, okay, I just wanted to be sure.
And it's, we change any setback requirements or rules or anything, that's all stays the same.
Yes, correct.
That's all I had, thank you.
Commissioner Boyce, you have any questions?
Who's driving the ship?
Driving.
Who's asking for these changes to be made? Didn't these come down to us from recommended state law changes at the legislature, or is there someone locally that's trying to make the change to the Ludo?
No, it was a situation that came up, and we
Let
decided.
me answer that really, actually, it's not really why we're hearing this on this particular thing. It isn't really dealing specifically with their issue, it is a countywide thing of concern that people have asked us to have. We're I think this is I might get this mistaken, the maximum allowed is 50 by 200. Maximum. Currently, it's considerably less than that, is it not?
Well, it comes down to how big the property is, and that's kind of.
It's like a ratio of the size of the property to the size of the building.
So the way it's written, 2,000 square feet per acre, so 1 acre property couldn't have a 10,000 square foot.
Yeah.
So it was just a recognition that, we do this periodically, look through our Ludo for unnecessary limitations, restrictions, and this is something that was recognized that was unnecessarily limiting people's activity and use of their property.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in the current, without changing anything, is there a limit to the number of buildings you could build? So if whatever our minimum is now, you build 2 of them that size, separate from each other?
Yes.
Build 10 of them?
I think at some point there's a lot coverage, so I can't recall off the top of my head.
But you could,
But you're
you
correct.
could easily have multiple buildings covering quite a bit of area.
Correct.
I believe it's 40% of your land use.
40%, okay, all right, thank you.
Is this building that these folks are talking about already standing?
Not to my knowledge.
This isn't about that.
It isn't specific to theirs at all, this
I get it.
situation at all.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
No, any other questions there?
I don't think so.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm happy to have a little discussion. So I gathering this, this change is gonna allow for what may be perceived as some additional conflicts between neighbors. And I understand that. One of the challenges I have, and I've been doing local land use, between the city and the state level now here for over 20 years, is trying to be principled in decisions and not look at specific, this person, do I like this person or that person, do I like the project or not? And when it comes down to making these decisions, to be principled in the idea of letting people use their land. This Oregon land use system was the first in the nation, it was supposed to be the model for the nation. No other state has adopted this model. It is wildly complicated and confusing, and it creates huge burdens for landowners and creates expectation for landowners about what may happen next to them. And it really puts government in this position of picking winners and losers. I don't like it. I understand, conflicts are problematic. I happen to live in the city where my neighbors are very close and there's certainly conflicts. However, when it comes down to making these decisions and representing the public, I've been pretty clear about my position on private property rights. And for me, if somebody wants to build a building on their land, it seems like we should not be in the position of saying no. And I understand this still sets limitations, it changes the limitations, but I don't really like the idea of having limitations, period. This is this person's land, they bought it, they paid for it, paying taxes on it, and if they wanna build a building on it, it seems like that should be reasonable. But in general, and you've heard me say this before, government telling people what they can do or not do with their land is a bad place for us to be.
question for you on this. Is it, the state land cover this at all in our land use law under a residential zoning?
Covered this type of use, this sort. Not to my knowledge.
This is something we've adopted that in the past has been more restrictive than state law.
Correct.
Well, that again is something I've been trying to make sure that we aren't doing. It's being more restrictive than our state law. Commissioner Boyce, anything from you? Entertain a motion.
I will move to adopt the amendments to the Douglas County Land Use and Development Ordinance on remand from the State of Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals related to the size of accessory single-family dwellings in conjunction with permitted farm uses.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'm gonna call for the vote. Commissioner Boyce?
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 10, which also is a public hearing.
Morning again, Joshua Shackley, Douglas County Planning Department. Before you this morning is a public hearing and ordinance adopting routine amendments to the Douglas County Land Use and Development Ordinance, or LUDO. Proposed amendments are primarily housekeeping changes for consistency, clarity, and to introduce several new uses. Amendments include minor amendments to chapters 1, 3, and 4 of the LUDO to enhance effectiveness of the LUDO, and amendments from spring 2024 in part on remand from the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals. The board remanded these specific amendments back to the Planning Commission via board order at its May 13th meeting. The Douglas County Planning Commission heard this matter at their May 21st, 2026 meeting and recommended that the board adopt the proposed amendments as drafted. To date, no written responses have been received in response to notice of public hearing to the proposed legislative amendments. Legal notice in accordance with all applicable state and local requirements have been provided. Planning Department staff finds the proposed amendments are not in conflict with the Douglas County Comprehensive Plan. Staff also finds that the amendments provide clarification, consistency, and new use opportunities in several zoning designations. Planning staff recommends that the Board of Commissioners adopt the proposed amendments to the LUDO. Happy to answer any questions or speak to any of the specific proposed amendments. If there are no questions, I recommend that you open the hearing and accept testimony and then deliberate to a decision.
Folks, questions before?
Just want to thank you for all the information about this ahead of time.
Sure.
Thank you.
Any conflicts on this particular situation at all? I'm going to announce. Okay, this time I'm going to open a public hearing, and at the same as the last one, we're going to first invite testimony for opposition, testimony that's neutral, and then testimony in favor of the proposal. So at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing and invite testimony in opposition to the proposal. Any folks in the room that would like to submit testimony? Anybody online?
Nobody online wanting to comment.
All right, and I'm going to move to neutral. Anybody in neutral to this proposal that would like to submit testimony? Seeing none, I'm going to move to those that want to speak in favor of the proposal. Now will be the time for testimony. Still online there?
Nobody wishing to comment online.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to close the public hearing. Deliberate to a decision.
I'll move to adopt amendments to chapters 1, 3, and 4 of the Douglas County Land Use and Development Ordinance and additional amendments to the LUDO on remand from the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for question. Commissioner Boyce?
Aye.
Mr. Freeman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and motion passes. Okay, we're gonna move to agenda item 11, Public Works item. There you go.
Good morning, Commissioners. Scott Adams, Public Works. Item number 11 is a modification to existing agreement with the BLM for the collection of stream gauge data. This existing agreement is a 4-year agreement. You're exercising the option 3-year agreement for the 26-27 years, so this will be through September 30th of 2027. This increases the BLM contribution to funding that program to $86,900.
I will move to approve the agreement modification.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the matter? Now I'm gonna call for the question. Commissioner Boyce?
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and motion passes. Next item is also a Public Works Department item. We're on item number 12.
Again, Scott Adams, Public Works. This is a contract between Douglas County and Myers Trucking LLC for miscellaneous road maintenance on an on-call and as-needed basis with a term expiration date of 5/1 of 2027.
Move to approve the contract.
I will second that.
Motion and a second. Questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. Commissioner Boyce?
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 13 is another Public Works Department item.
Again, Scott Adams, Public Works. This is a contract between Douglas County and Knife River Corporation Northwest to provide resources which may include hauling and stockpiling aggregate products. Has a term expiration date of June 1st of 2027.
Move to approve the contract.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. Commissioner Boyce?
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion passes. Thank you, Scott. Item number 14 is a Sheriff's Department item. I see we have the sheriff.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Hanlon, Douglas County Sheriff. This item before you this morning is used to be a IGA, intergovernmental agreement. It says the Community Service Agreement. I'm not exactly sure what the difference is. Maybe council can clarify.
I think it's supposed to say Communication Services Agreement.
Community Services Agreement?
Communication Services.
Communications, gotcha, okay. Which is what it is. So a communication service agreement between Douglas County and the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Tribe of Indians for dispatch and radio services with a term of July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2027. And the amount payable to the county is $117,208.56.
Move to approve the agreement.
I'll second that.
Motion and second. Questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. Commissioner Boyce?
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. This item on the agenda is a Solid Waste Department intergovernmental agreement. Handle that one today. This is a intergovernmental agreement between Douglas County and the city of Riddle for RV storage and disposal. That's when they find abandoned RVs within their city limits. This is an agreement for us to help them take care of that, and there's no expiration on that, and I would move to approve the intergovernmental agreement.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
I just would note that we do this with most of the cities to try to help. We have the property up by the landfill and a contractor that helps kind of clean all that up. So it's not cheap, but it's important work.
That's right. We've worked with all of them. They've been grateful for us to do this work. And we've, because all of them end up having this situation at some time or another. So I'm glad we have a mechanism to take care of it. Anything else? Now I'll call for the question. Commissioner Boyce?
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes. The next item is number 16 is a solid waste department item as well. And this one is just a contract, number 3003031 between Douglas County and Davis Corporation, and it's for maintenance service on an as-needed basis, on call as needed, and it has a term expiration of 7/1/2027. I would move to approve that contract as well.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Now I'll call for the question. Commissioner Boyce?
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and motion passes. Item number 17 is also a solid waste department item. It's contract number 3003034 between Douglas County and Mars Construction It's for construction service on an as-needed on-call basis, and it has a term expiration of June 1st, 2027. I move to approve that contract.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Question, Commissioner Boyce?
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye and the motion passes. Number 18, another solid waste department item. It's contract number 3003030 between Douglas County and Knife River Materials. It's for labor and materials on an as-needed on-call basis. It also has a term of expiration of July 1st, 2027. I would move to approve that contract.
I'll second.
Motion a second. Any questions or comments? Then I'll call for the question. Commissioner Boyce?
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye and the motion passes. Number 19, another solid waste department item, is a contract modification. And it's our first modification of contract 3002838 with SCS Engineers to update our potential subcontractors. And I would approve that contract.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. Commissioner Boyce?
Aye.
Commissioner Freeman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye and the motion passes. Item number 20 is commissioner comments. Commissioner Boyce?
That's for me.
Commissioner Freeman?
Just one quick thing, if I may.
Yes.
So, recently, the city of Roseburg took a position and passed an ordinance on the sanctuary status of the city of Roseburg in the state of Oregon. And oftentimes, when they do things over there, somehow people confuse what the city's position on an issue is and what the county's position is. We've seen this multiple times since I've been a commissioner. And I want to make it clear that that's the city doing what they want to do. I happen to live in the city of Roseburg. I think I'm the only commissioner that lives within the city limits of Roseburg. We all work in the city of Roseburg because the courthouse was built here, and this is where our offices are. For me, not for the board, but for me, I cannot fathom for a second why the city of Roseburg chose to take that position. I understand that what the state law is. It's up to the sheriff and the sheriff's department to decide what laws they're going to follow and do what they're going to do here at the county. So I don't think it's appropriate for us to take a position one way or the other. But personally, not following federal law and not working with federal agencies trying to enforce federal law quite possibly could be one of the most challenging and wrong things state government has ever done. I had this conversation when I was a legislator. Having law enforcement agencies not able to work together efficiently using public dollars is mind-boggling to me. We literally have people at times in jails, in county jails around Oregon, that have been convicted of crimes and they're serving their time for their state convicted crimes in these communities, like Douglas County. And they have a final removal order to remove them from the country because of their immigration status. So they've had all the due process in that. And some of these people are really bad people. They've done some really bad things. And our folks down in the sheriff's department can't even call the federal partners and say, hey, why don't you come pick these folks up? Instead, they put them out in the community and then they have to chase them, and that's where you see all this dangerous stuff occurring. Beyond that, the fact that Roseburg, they'll say that their city council and mayor will say that that was symbolic. It's symbolic the wrong way, quite frankly. And if we were going to do something here, which again, I'm not proposing to do anything, our position would be, my position would be, or what I would propose is that the sanctuary law doesn't work and it causes damage and creates situations where people that are criminals are allowed to evade accountability. So anyway, I'm frustrated with what the city did. I don't understand why they did it. I know they had a group of people that were all spun up about it and thought that was the right thing to do. And I very rarely ever comment on what city councils do and city governments. But again, we oftentimes get looped into that because of our proximity of buildings. And I want to make sure people understand that is not something this Board of Commissioners was involved in. Thank you.
I would just add to that, Tim, I agree with absolutely everything you just said. I've had people reach out to me personally and say, hey, what are you doing? I'm thinking that I'm on the city council, which I'm not, I never have been. But one thing that I would add to that is that it gets a little bit more complicated for us because the city doesn't have their own jail. They use our jail. So when they arrest people for crimes and those folks need to go to jail, whether they be, whatever their immigration status is, they go into our jail. And then we have a responsibility to do what's right with those folks while they're in our custody. So it complicates the issue. It's something that absolutely did not need to be done. I totally disagree with it also. And we are in a different situation, and I'm grateful for that, for the fact that when you're involved in the city, your chief law enforcement officer is hired. In our situation, our chief law enforcement officer is elected. And he gets to answer to the voters, and I much prefer that. And we are not the sheriff's boss. He's elected by the people and answers to the people, and he gets to decide how he's gonna respond to these situations solely in his own right and not under the direction of us or some other board. I'm grateful for that.
He does a fantastic job.
That's right.
Yeah, you know, and along that line with what you said, you know, back to the state, we have state issues that seem to, their position on things are not necessarily done with any forethought for the good of the people, but more on how can we tweak the federal government? How can we, and not necessarily good decisions. So we go back and forth every administration change with a new law that has nothing to do with governance, good governance, and everything to do about thumbing their nose at whatever administration is. And the city just made that 10 times worse. So I agree with you 100%. Thank you. I got nothing else. If you guys don't, I'm adjourned.